Thokozani, 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 bogogo nabomkhulu, thokozani. Thokozani, 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 thokozani. Hope you guys are all good. Hope you guys are well. Thokozani, we're scheduled to start this live in 5 minutes. Exactly 5 minutes. So according to my watch, it is 13:26. We will start at exactly 1:30. Discussing Umdliwa. So every single weekend I'll be live on a Saturday around about this time, right? To discuss a particular topic, any topic really. Okay. This is in build up to us bringing back the classes that are going to be online, free, of course. Right. So thokozani everybody, thokozani, thokozani. Hope you guys are all well. Hope you guys are splendid. I'm in Joburg, so it is cooking. So how am I? I'm cooking. That's how I am. I'm cooking. It is extremely hot here in Joburg, guys. It is extremely hot here in Joburg. Okay. All right. Just before I begin the live, obviously just some quick admin. So we have had a couple of delays with orders when it comes to our herbs and candles, because obviously we have a supplier for wax and we have a supplier for the containers, right? And then we get the glass jars ourselves. That's never an issue. Sometimes there's an issue with supply of wax, or there's an issue with supply of actual jars that we pack the candle in. So sometimes that can cause a delay. So what we've done is we're getting a different supplier. So things should be a lot more quicker, right? A lot quicker when it comes to getting orders out, because the goal is 2 to 3 days for national or local orders anywhere in South Africa, and then 3 to 5 days for international orders. Okay. I say 3 to 5, bearing in mind that sometimes things can take a while at customs, especially when there's herbs involved. They really want to go through them, sift through them, probably have some sniffer dog or something. And guys, it depends on at customs. But the biggest thing that delays orders internationally is customs. Customs takes a very, very long time to go through and sift through whatever they got to go through, right? Then there's going to be a slight change in the schedule when it comes to the online sessions. So we're not going to have any more sessions on a Friday, right? And we are going to start shooting again. And there's a new project that I'm also going to be working on. So the number of days where I'm available for online session is going to be limited now. So hopefully, so what we're going to do is we're going to keep the 7 to 10 p.m. is now going to be available on weekends as well. So 7 to 10 p.m. is also going to be available on weekends, because during the week, right? From 9 to 4, I won't be available every single day. So from 7 till 10 p.m., right? I think I've got a couple of openings tonight. I'm not sure. My assistant will tell me. Right. So 7 to 10 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays are going to now be available. Those are probably best for people that have couple sessions, and family sessions are best for those times, because you can travel to your family and have a family session, or both you and your partner are not working that day, so you can come and sit down with myself in the evening. Right. Hold on just 2 seconds. Okay. All right. Perfect. So that is just some basic house admin. Another thing, people think that when you jump on a call, you're not speaking to anybody else. You're going to be speaking to me, not somebody else. You speak to me. It's the same if you're going to book to go see Dr. Mkhize, my father. You're going to go and see him. You're not going to see somebody else. You're going to see me. All right? I hope that's clear. And before I begin, because I get a lot of questions and DMs about dreams, right? Why are dreams so difficult to resolve, especially in DMs and on lives and stuff like that? That is because you have a generic kind of meaning for a dream or a symbol. But then it's about what that dream means specifically. Let's, for instance, talk about indaba yenkomo. So I had a client the other day who had a dream of a red cow being shot, or a dream of a red cow bleeding here at the back with the back leg, right? So in general, there's a general approach to what a red cow means. But then for him, I specifically asked, did your family have cattle? And they said, yes, our family did have cattle many years ago. We had red cattle. But then something happened and they all died. And I'm like, right. Leo Pupo is about how and why the red cattle disappeared. It turns out ukuthi beknekhehla on their side of the family owaganga with iy'nkomo zasekhaya. Okay? Watata inxeba, in other words, watata that part of the animal, the back leg, sorry, umkhono, the upper limb, and he took a piece of it wayoganga ngayo. And then because waganga with the piece of the red cattle that the family had, wayotwala, I think that's something along those lines, right? That caused all the red cattle to die off. So the dream was about ukulungisa that atrocity so that inkomo ezbovu can be brought back and bangavsfuya, because he said that every time bazama something would happen and it wouldn't work out, right? They would all die off, so they gave up. So once we had resolved that issue, then they were able to uzfuya again in Komas both. So that's why I usually don't prefer people asking me dreams, and like my DMs and emails and WhatsApps are filled with people asking for dream interpretations, or they're filled with people asking for assistance with dreams. And I'm like, but dreams need a session. They need that back and forth. They need that exploration of family history, and you can't really get that over a couple of characters, you see. But anyway, I'm only here for about half an hour to 45 minutes. Most of it being the discussion on Umdliwa. Right? Someone asked me on Facebook, what is Umdliwa? And I have absolutely no idea. Right? But I'll do my best to find out for you guys. This term Umdliwa is grossly misunderstood and misdiagnosed. And I'm going to explain to you what Umdliwa looks like. Umdliwa is essentially this, it's an ancestral spirit or isilwane that is foreign to the family. In other words, it is an ancestral spirit that does not come from the DNA or the lineage of the family. Right? So when this ancestral spirit manifests, because the spirit and the, right, are of different lineages. In other words, as uSiyabonga Mkhize, okay? Mina ginegazi lika Mkhize. When I have an ancestral spirit that comes in me that is not of the Mkhize blood, what is going to happen? You have an allergic reaction. So now this allergic reaction can come across as many people dying in the family. It can come across as uSiyabonga being extremely violent. It can come across as uSiyabonga consuming many drugs. It can come across as uSiyabonga being mentally handicapped, mentally disabled. It can come across as everybody in the family dies of a heart attack, or everybody in the family dies of a stroke, or in the family dies of a car accident, or everybody in the family can't work, or everybody in the family they typically is an unexplainable death, a lot of death in a very short span of time. So in 5 years, you're going to have a lot of people dying in the family. You go to a healer and they say, in the family history that is killing people off. There's a foreign body or a foreign ancestor that has access to your bloodline, and that has come. This person is usengene kuSiyabonga. Right? So now a lot of families, they say that they don't believe in African spirituality and amadlozi because every single time someone tries to access these gifts are demonic. Right? Umdliwa is typically categorized as something demonic because it is foreign. Let me explain briefly why why there is technically no such thing as Umdliwa. Why Umdliwa is actually a misunderstanding of foreign ancestral bodies and how they actually enter our lineage and how they enter our family. Okay? Now, not all sisters in your family, right, are of your blood. Therefore, it is possible ukuthi uzale wembethe a foreign ancestral individual. Hence, as much as uSiyabonga is Zulu, vukwa mimoya mangifemba sengikhuluma isiVenda. I'm talking Venda. But when I'm out of that moment of trance, I can't speak a word of Venda. You guys have been on my lives, and I always say to you guys, you can speak any language you want except Venda, because Venda, I'm still learning it. But why? Yingoba, what happens is this. Let's say in your family history, right? Your family has land. Then there was a guest or a traveler from far, far away who came and sought refuge at your family's home, right? He stayed there for 1 day. 1 day became 2. 2 days became 3. 3 days became 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months. Sometimes they stay so long that they end up passing away there and they get buried on your ancestral land. Right? But because the Mkizos say, you know what? This person, we don't know where their family is. We don't know where they come from. We will do him a favor and we will bury him on our ancestral land. And we ask Izlo to say, we ask that you give us permission to bury this individual. Yes, we are aware that this individual is not of our blood. We are aware that this individual is not part of our family and our lineage. However, bury him with the rest of you. Fine, and then we bury Usbanban, who came from Venda. Because the individual is so grateful to the Mkizes, he says, you know what? I'm going to gift you guys with impande yamavenda. Right? Listen to me. He says, I'm so grateful to the Mkizes. I'm going to come back and enter the body of Usiabong, and I'm going to give you the gift of impande yamavenda. Right? Hence, it is possible. And I saw this video on TikTok the other day. Someone saying, how can you be closer but utwasisi ndawo, a gift from the people of Mozambique, kanjani, right? That is how. Bayabuya, and they say, here is the gift yamavenda, right? Then people are confused. How is a Zulu man or a Zulu or how is it possible that a Zulu man can heal ngempande yamavenda? How is that possible? Kanti yikehla that comes through Usiabonga, right? That is not of Mkhize blood. Kodwa, right? Ubuyile. Okay? Now Umdliwa, okay? Or other times, the person doesn't, or other times, the said individual, the said vendor man, stays with them Mkizes for 2, 3, 4 years, and then he says, you know what, guys, thank you very much for looking after me, I'm going back home. Then he gets buried at his own ancestral home in Venda, right? Gets buried in his own ancestral home in Venda. He passes away there. But now remember, the people that know about it have also passed away. They forgot that there was a vendor man who used to live, who stayed there for 4 years. That's Kohliu, right? Now he also passed away Konalab. Then kuzalwa ingane Usiyabonga. Right? But then in a dream, my mother has a dream saying, no, give this child a vendor name. And then they're like, hold on, man. Whoa. Why must I give my child a vendor name? Then they ignore it. They say, no, man, forget about it. I'm not giving my Zulu child a vendor name. The dream comes again. Give this child the vendor name Sbanban. Right? I don't know vendor names. Let's say Libuan. Okay? Let's use that name. This child is not Usiabo. This is Ulibuan. Then my mother's like, no man, and I'm not going to name my Zulu child Libuan. Okay? Siabonga is then born. Right? But now as Usiabonga grows, there are certain defects that begin. Now with the birth of Usiabong comes the death of family members, is one. With the birth of Usiabong, comes the death of family members. Now, this is in complete contradiction to what birth should happen. Because remember, blessings should always bring more blessings. So now, with the birth of Usiabonga comes many people dying. Okay? So then you're saying, no man, something is off here. When Usiabonga is born, a lot of people are dying. You then go and you hlola. Let's say Usiabonga is born with the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck. So you know what Usiabonga was bed. Okay? Not a problem. Manje nihambisa Usiabonga to know, as a family, you go and you see a healer and you say, you know what, ever since this child was born, abantu are dying. Right? Then the healer says, abone ulibuan, ikehle ulibuan. Okay? That's the keshe that the healer is saying. But now, because ubona mhlambe mayihlola, he will see a man dressed in Venda attire. But this is Mkhize, this is a Zulu family. And because he doesn't have the understanding of the family history, right? He immediately sees a Venda man that is coming with this child uSiyabonga, but the family is Zulu. Then he says what? This is a foreign ancestor, and because it is a foreign ancestor that has entered your child, therefore Umdliwa. And because there's a lot of death in the family member, it is this foreign ancestor that is Isilwane and that is killing people in the family. Right? Okay? That is killing people in the family. So now you've got this, you've gone to a healer, they're telling you of this foreign ancestor. And then your mother says, you know what? Nami, I had a dream before uSiyabonga was born. No, the ancestor said they want the name Libuwane. And then ati, kusho ukuthi somebody wafaka this person kwingane yakho. Right? So now somebody has worked kwingane. Leyo nto isilwane. Okay? Then they say ukuthi no, but we know uSiyabonga was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around the neck, which means ukuthi kufanele athwasa besango. Then they say ukuthi no, nina kaMkhize, this gift lifika nedlozi elibi. It coming with an ancestral spirit that is demonic, that is foreign to your family. Did you see what I'm saying? So you need to understand ukuthi I don't blame abelaphi for misdiagnosing, because you need to also look at the symptoms and look at how it may look at the image that is created as a result of all of this, right? Okay. So now you have this Venda man or Venda Kehl Ulibuwane that is possessed uSiyabonga. Uhamba naye uSiyabonga. What does the family then do? The healer says, what we can do for uSiyabonga to stop this death, asimvalo Ulibuwane. What do? They take a black goat, bageza uSiyabonga with a black goat, because bazama kwenzani? Bazama ukuvala uLibuwane. Okay? Now what happens in that instance? Right? More death, more suffering, more turmoil. But now why? Because senimvalile uLibuwane. So Libuwane can't really act on the family. Engage. So where is this outrage coming from? The outrage is now coming from idlozi likaMkhize, no longer from uLibuwane. Initially, the outcry was coming from uLibuwane, but namvala uLibuwane. But now, abantu that are upset is idlozi likaMkhize, because uLibuwane would never be able to possess uSiyabonga unless he got permission from idlozi likaMkhize. Nalo idlozi likaMkhize allowed uLibuwane to come into uSiyabonga and Siyabonga to be born because bebefunda leyo mpande yamaVenda. Manje, what you have done as a family by ukuvala uLibuwane is you have derailed idlozi from their plans. You see, that's why kwesinye isikhathi idlozi livala imali, because they're like, no. You're not going to use this money to get us to where we want to get to as a family. Right? So idlozi liyayivala imali. Idlozi livala umshado. There's no marriages. Idlozi livala imali. Abantu abawuthola umsebenzi. Right? People do, because idlozi is like, the prosperity and the luck has an intended purpose. There's a reason why we want to give it to you. But now what you have done by kumvalo Libuwane is you have derailed us from that path. Because anaz what is food, you don't know why siyamletha uLibuwane and sifuna impande yamaVenda. Yikho nje bagwethu. Some of you there's no such thing as I'm a pure blood Zulu. I'm a pure blood whatever. Some of you guys are going to be Sotho speaking and they're going to say hambo twasisi Zulu. Some of you are going to be Venda, they're going to say hambo twasisi Xhosa. Some of you are going to be Xhosa and you're going to twasisa ini is Venda. You see? Because Umdliwa, for the English translation, is a foreign ancestral spirit that has decided to come back. A foreign ancestral spirit that has decided to come back. Okay? Right? The reason why there is so much turmoil and suffering is, one, it is still a foreign ancestral spirit. And because it is foreign, there is almost a rejection physically, because the DNA, right? The DNA is Mkhize, but the ancestral spirit is Venda. So there is going to be that clash, that spiritual tension. So what we do, thank you all for the gifts, by the way, thank you. So what we do in that moment is we need to cleanse this tension, right? What you do, right? Think about this. Think about it this way. When you have an allergic reaction, what do? You give someone antihistamines, right? The antihistamines is to tell the body's immune system to calm down, relax, you are fine. So we do the same thing spiritually in Psalm. Siyamgeza ulibuwani. Okay? We give Usiyabonga a vendor name. Kalibuwan. Sometimes you have to cleanse it, Kalibuwan. Sometimes you have to do umsebenzi wokukhunga to ask Ulibuwan to give the blessing so that Usiyabonga can carry this name. But once you embrace and accept Ulibuwan, the anaphylactic shock spiritually or the spiritual allergic reaction goes away. You have given umsamo wagini, you've given your ancestors and umsamo antihistamine. Right? When someone gets stung by a bee and they have an allergic reaction on the arm, we don't cut off their arm, we don't amputate, right? What do? We give them antihistamine. You see? So people talk about umdliwa, it's a foreign ancestral spirit. Guys, in order for land ukuthi ingene kuSiyabonga, idlozi likaMkhize had to give permission to that ancestral spirit to enter. Okay? In order for idlozi of a vendor man to enter me as Usiyabonga Mkhize as a full-blown Zulu man, my ancestors had to give that individual permission. They had to plan it strategically when it comes to the right seed and the right womb had to come together. There are many small details that have to come together in order for this foreign ancestral spirit to enter Usiyabonga. You see? So, Bagwethu, I'm going to discuss this more on the morning show, and I'm going to go into into more detail over the next coming weeks, unpacking Umdliwa. But what I want you to understand is there are many families, right, that have blocked off their ancestral gifts because they said, no, less kwama less is ifika nomdliwa, or these gifts is ifika nomdliwa. It's a foreign ancestral spirit. Right? Hence, there are many families that are staunch Christian, prophetic, and then they have a child onobungoma, and they're like, no man. But like Kaya, for the past 15 generations, we've only had Abba Prophet Namatandas. Kushuguti, this gift of ubungoma ufika nomdliwa. So therefore, how can we accept lento yobungoma? Because it clearly must be demonic. And Ama Christians have a lovely term for it. They're like, oh no, that's why Ama Christians, they say it's demonic, because babona is the phenomenon or the symptoms of umdliwa, and they assume that is African spirituality in an entirety. They said no. The fact that a Zulu child or a Zulu boy, right, at 5 years old, who has never heard and been exposed to Isvend, can speak Venda purely, can speak Venda fluently, right, my famba, or fluently, when malkopugejos, kushuguti, it must be demonic. When ka, it's an ancestral spirit that isn't in the child's bloodline, that isn't in the lineage, but usebuyile and wants to gift the family with something. And bagwet, the day you get the umdliwa situation better, the day you fix it, forget about that child, forget about that child being prosperous. The whole family benefits. The entire family benefits. The same way, when you guys get it wrong, the whole family suffers. The entire family suffers. Yikho nje bagwethu, right? I always say to abantu, time and time after again, okay? The site of manifestation of the symptom isn't necessarily the site of manifestation of the symptom isn't necessarily the isn't where the root cause of the problem is, or isn't where the solution lies, right? So just because the symptom can be with everybody in the family, right? The person, key, could be that one child who's asymptomatic, no symptoms at all. You see? So what we need to do, right? What you need to understand ngomdliwa, okay? Umdliwa, unfortunately, is being used quite haphazardly, and it's misdiagnosing a foreign ancestral spirit where we don't understand the family history. The why misdiagnosis takes place Or rather, let me say that here, in my opinion, is what a good reading or a good session should have. You have indlela yokuhlola, however you decide to hlola, whatever yellow hlola or hlola ngayo. Okay? Let's say you use amathambo, right? Depending on how the bones fall, it's going to tell you, it's going to give you indicators, right? You then take indicators and you must match it with symptoms. Now, symptoms are the things that are happening in the individual's life, their physical health. This is what the symptoms I look at. I look at two things. One, I look at the physical symptoms, but two, I look at the symptoms and the age of onset and the rate at which they progress. So if the grandmother died of cancer at 80 years old, right? Okay, when did she get it? In her 70s. And then the mother had cancer in her 60s, right? And she died of it in her 70s. And then the daughter, who's probably my client, had cancer in her 40s, but was diagnosed in her 30s. You can see that there's a younger age of onset and the rate at which it's progressing is much quicker as you go down the generation. So those are the symptoms that you want to look out for. And then, so you have the picture that ukuhlola kwakho is giving you. Then you have the symptoms, right? And then after the symptoms, you have the family history. Now, the family history is usually tied to isiko nesintu, which is where a lot of people miss out on because you're not taught isiko nesintu. So you're going to have the picture of itambo, right? For instance, let's say itambo for your father's side stands up and then your mother's side iyalala. Okay? Then people say to you, no, when asiyabonga, you should be using your father's surname because yabona litambo, lama kehla, this is your father's side. It's standing up and your mother's side is lying down. Right? Therefore, you must take isbonga. You must take your father's surname. When no, in actual fact, if you got the family history to say, okay, fine, in terms of your symptoms, how were you born? No, I was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around the neck. Okay, cool. It's not lelithambo limile phezulu, the father's side, because usiyabonga uzala wembethe ikhehla likamkhize. But the family history says ukuthi mother and father were not married. Therefore, so do you see how you've got to take what is itambo or indlela yakho yokuhlola telling you? What is your family history? And then what are the symptoms? And then you put those three together. And then you tell the person, okay, this is what's going on. And together you explore methods of intervention. How many of you, there's 300 or 400 of you in this life, how many of you have been to somebody and you were able to negotiate your method of intervention? Or they simply just told you that, look, we need to do 1, 2, 3, and 4, or else you'll break loose. People will die. You'll lose your job. This will happen. That's not how we operate as Mobaba. We negotiate with you to say, okay, fine, this is our plan A. This is what can work. Does it work for you? No, it doesn't work. Okay, cool, not a problem. Let's come up with plan B. Right? Okay, does plan B work? Okay, cool. Not really, but we're almost there. Then we go to plan C. So the one thing that I think we do differently in our organization is that we negotiate with you methods of intervention. It's not just going to be one side. We're not going to just tell you, look, if you don't bring us this and you don't bring us that and that and that, this is what's going to happen, or hell will break loose. You know? That's not how we operate. You need to be given options of intervention. You need to give the opportunity to negotiate your methods of intervention. Guys, your healers need to be giving you the same quality of service that you would get from your doctor or your GP or anybody that's any other health practitioner. You've got to be given options. Informed consent to say, if we go with method number 1, these are the potential outcomes. If we go with method number 2, these are the potential outcomes. Right? Sometimes you have methods that are temporary and you say, look, option number 1 is going to buy you. Sometimes you do things to buy time. Say, look, we're going to do this. It's just going to buy you time up until you can make a concrete decision. But at some point, the effect of option A is going to run out and we're going to need to make a hard decision about option B and C. Sometimes that does happen. Yabo.